Welcome to Umbrella Rebellion. I'm Marcy.
And I'm Dee.
We are finding healing after leaving a cult.
We will be discussing abuse and personal experience with the ATI, IBLP, and fundamental churches.
Trigger warning. This podcast may contain descriptions of various forms of abuse. Please take care for your safety and well-being while you are listening.
If the content becomes too much for you to handle, please turn this off. We hope to expose harmful teachings that lead to and justify abuse,
with the hope that those that are experiencing abuse can find support and escape from it.
Might as well jump. We're going to do some more jumping around in IBLP's Vin's manual, shenanigans, malarkey, and contradictions galore. Back in the introduction, he tells us to begin on page 33 for the projects. I guess this is just telling you where to start this thing after you get through the first 32 pages of the complete introduction. If you want to see an example of what this might look like, you can go back to my first episode in this series where we start with question number 17. In the introduction, under the purpose to develop godly character section, he tells us to look at page 23. So we jump around, jump up, and get down. Let's go take a look real quick at this. We'll get into a full breakdown of this when we are moving through the book. So application number 23, number 1, purpose to motivate your family to build godly character qualities in their lives. My little children, of whom I travail in birth against until Christ be formed in you. So teach your children. Got it. 2, commit yourself to making your wife radiant with God's word. We're going to get into this. I am looking so forward to getting into this when we get to this page. Then he has this box of deepen marriage communication through character building. And we kind of had this in the introduction where you had to write a letter to your wife about this. I'm not exactly sure why we're repeating things that we've already done or expounding on them again. I don't know. Give your family the quiz on character qualities. Maybe that's on the previous page. I guess we'll get into this when we finish the introduction eventually and get to application number 23, I guess is from question number 23. I don't understand if you're going to have a weekly thing, why you're going to be jumping around and all over the place to different things that you're going to address later. I'm not understanding that. Maybe y'all can give me some insight into that. Do y'all understand that? I do believe that is the end of our jump for Bill Gothard. I don't know if you can read, especially if you're on TikTok, the portion where he says, make your wife radiant with God's word. But if you have a chance to read that, I'd love to know what you think about it in the comments. We're going to get into the deep dive eventually. Maybe 3 years from now. This is taking forever. Look, if you are enjoying this deep dive, please let me know. I absolutely love all the feedback that I have been given. And if you know somebody that may benefit from this deep dive, please share it out. The purpose of this podcast is to help people understand the damage and harm that these teachings have created in many, many families, and to maybe help you progress in your healing journey, knowing that this stuff was absolutely wild and unattainable and that you were correct for walking away from it. Or if you're thinking about walking away from it, maybe this will help you understand why you've struggled so much. We are finally moving on in the introduction. Yes, we are still in the introduction. Remember a couple episodes ago, I said, spoiler alert, we're going to get to a section called How the Wives React. Guess what time it is? It is time to review this page. Let's get into it. Why do wives react? We have a cause and an effect. According to Bill Gothard, this is why wives react. Now, remember, this man has never been married. I don't know if any married men ever helped him write this material. I do know that he approved every single thing that was written in these books, and he would have never published anything that he did not have approval of. Caveat there. When a husband fails to be a spiritual leader, his wife feels insecure. When a husband allows problems to continue and even get worse, his wife feels helpless and finally takes matters into her own hands. So if a husband doesn't solve problems, the wife will do it because only men can solve problems. Right? When a husband does not support his wife in disciplining the children, his wife blames him for rebellious children. I never experienced that. Despite all efforts to discipline, I was the scapegoat in my first marriage for any problems because I was the one that was home all day and I let them get away with yada, 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 despite no evidence of me just letting my children run amok or whatever. When a husband spends extra money on things which he enjoys, his wife resents the financial pressure under which they must live.
Oh my God.
Because typically you are operating on one income. To spend extra money on wants is not typically going to be a good decision. When a husband does not accept himself, his wife feels the same rejection from him because he projects. I mean, I guess that makes sense in a way. I would word it differently. A husband's insecurity will be turned on his wife and he will be abusive towards her. I think that's a little bit more accurate. When a husband praises or admires other women, his wife feels inferior and jealous. I would say that a wife is not going to necessarily feel jealous and insecure if she is secure in her marriage. I watch shows with my husband. Okay, yeah, I'm bisexual. So, we can appreciate a nice looking woman together. But that doesn't mean that my husband wants to step out on me. We're all humans. What matters is the way he treats me and his respect for me, and that he comes home to me every night. I think the insecurity comes from not feeling prioritized, not necessarily that he's a human being and can appreciate beauty in other people. That is just my personal opinion and the way my relationship works, but I understand that there might not be as much security in a relationship as I have in mine. I will also say, when it comes to partnerships, jealousy and insecurity can often be correlated with a sense of ownership over the other person. And once you release that desire to have that person be quote unquote yours and understanding that they're choosing to be with you, sometimes that helps with jealousy and insecurity. At least for me, it did. Understanding the dynamic that I don't own my partner. When a husband verbalizes love only when he wants a physical relationship with his wife feels degraded and used and finds it hard to love him. Did they read this ever? I felt that way in my first marriage. There was actual data that was collected by Sheila Ray Gregory. She is the author of The Great Sex Rescue. In that data that she compiled from conservative Christian women. I'm not exactly sure what her sample size is, but I've heard her talk about it on her podcast. There is data to support the abuse of women in marriages when it comes to intimacy, how the biblical teaching of wives being obligated to have sex with their husbands affects women and their relationship. When a husband forgets anniversaries and other special occasions, his wife feels that she is unimportant and not cherished by him. Some women, I'm not big on celebrations. I'll be honest with you, I could care less if you get me a present on my birthday. It would be nice to have a little something. Take me out to eat, spend time with me, something like that. Anniversary, I appreciate it if we go out and do something and enjoy each other's company or even just have a quiet night at home alone. What I need and what means more to me and makes me feel important is that every day there's some kind of act in his daily life that shows me that he cares. And my husband does an amazing job at that. I feel so taken care of, especially with my chronic illness and how much he's taken on despite his own struggles with his own physical health. Just to clarify that, he allows me to rest so I can work and provide an income for the family as well. Otherwise, there are many days where if I tried to do things around the house, I couldn't work the next day. So we have discussed this at length, and that is the agreement that we came to for our relationship. When a husband does not praise his wife for specific things, his wife feels frustrated in not knowing how to please him. I would say that I actually agree with this. For me personally, being noticed that I put effort into doing anything has always been important to me my whole entire life because with ADHD and my very difficult struggle with executive function, there are days where just getting out of bed and going somewhere was an accomplishment. So anything that I did above and beyond that, I was like, man, that took a lot of effort. It'd be nice if somebody noticed. But for a lot of people, it's not that big of a deal to get up and do the things that I did. So they didn't understand how I needed recognition for that. But I am also guilty of not seeing things that people do because ADHD, and I just don't notice things all the time. Something that I have to work on myself for others as well. Why do wives react? Please tell me, Bill Gothard. I am ignorant to why wives might react. Let's go, patriarchy! Let's continue this Why Do Wives React page. If you're new here, make sure that you are following us here or on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Substack so that you may be notified when our next video is uploaded. Let's get into it. When a husband does not spend time talking with his wife finds others who will listen to her true feeling. This goes to the whole teaching in the fundamentalist circles that a wife and a husband should be everything to each other and you should need no one outside of your marriage. Now, for me personally, I felt so alone in my first marriage because my emotional needs were not being met, but I depended on my husband to meet all of my emotional needs. I have come to find out that having a balance between your partnership and outside friends is very healthy. It does not put the full burden of your emotional well-being on someone else. You can be more in charge of it when you have more than one person to rely on. So I think that's very unhealthy to only have your partner be there for you emotionally, because one person cannot meet all of your emotional needs because they are human and they are not perfect and they will lack in some areas that you need fulfilled. And I'm not saying in a romantic sense, I am just saying friendships. Polyamory and multi-partner relationships are a conversation for another day. If y'all would like to know how I feel about that or what my opinions are on the matter, no, I will be glad to talk about it. When a husband fails to notice the little extra things his wife does for him, his wife loses her creativity for her husband and their home and looks for outside interests. But having outside interest isn't a bad thing. If you're not solely dependent on your spouse for everything, then maybe spending so much time trying to please one person, they would actually notice when you do things because you're not trying to be noticed. I don't know. I'm not sure how to word this. I mean, obviously you want to be noticed when you do something kind for your spouse, but there are some things that just aren't going to go noticed. And having creativity and interest outside of the home is not a bad thing. It makes you more of a human being, a more well-rounded human being. Isolationism. I mean, again, this is isolationism. When a husband makes bad judgments and unwise business decisions, his wife resists his will in future decisions. Well, yeah, because she doesn't trust him to make good decisions. And likely she advised against it and he did it anyway, and it was a bad decision. And so there you go. Ask me how I know. Maybe it happened to me. Look, when my husband makes a financial decision to spend money, it's not a big deal because he doesn't do stupid things. And even if I disagree with it, it's not going to be catastrophic to our lives. When a husband is not alert to dangers which his wife faces, his wife feels unprotected. Being dismissive of your wife's concerns in general is not a good thing. You might want to listen to her if she has concerns or if she's feeling uneasy about things. Women have intuition for a reason. When a husband neglects needed home repairs, his wife builds up resentment and impatience. Shouldn't you want to take care of your home? Why does she have to ask you? I don't know. When I was more physically able, I would just do it. If he didn't get to it when I needed it done, because if it was bothering me, I don't know, I'd just do it. If I didn't know how to do it, I'd look it up on YouTube. You're capable. You're a human being. You have skills. And if your husband isn't doing it and it needs to be done, I don't know, just do it. And if he's not doing it, then maybe evaluate your relationship. I don't know. When a husband does not have good manners or consistent manners, his wife loses self-worth and feels isolated from her husband's real world. What does that even mean? Good manners? Like, don't put your elbows on the table? Be respectful? I would like to know what he means by manners. Does he mean respecting your wife? Or does he mean saying thank you and please and using the appropriate fork at dinner? If I was writing this, I would say when a husband does not respect his wife, she loses self-worth and feels isolated from her husband's real. No, no, no. She just loses self-worth and respect for him. Because even though in this cult it was taught that men deserve respect, respect is earned. When a husband lusts after other women, his wife feels inadequate in trying to meet her husband's physical needs. If you respect your wife and you are in tune to her needs, she can then be in tune to yours. I mean, yeah, if my husband was going and flirting with other women all over the place, I would probably feel a little jilted. I never really experienced that in either of my marriages. My self-worth was lost because I did not feel respected or valued as a partner. When a husband loses his temper and does not ask for forgiveness, his wife reacts to his pride. You're an angry asshole, and it's pride that she's reacting to. Not asking for forgiveness, I would say maybe is prideful. It's that self-righteousness. I experienced a lot of the men not being able to admit that they were wrong in this cult. So that could be attributed to pride, ego, lack of accountability. And that's the end of this page. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the rest of this and the whole page in general. If there was anything that stood out to you on this page that really bothered you, let me know and let me know why. I'm very curious. So every time I read one of these, there's a cult teaching that pops up in my brain, and I'm like, oh, that's laying the groundwork. I'm sure we will be referencing this in the future when we get further into this book, because we can probably tie it back to this laying some groundwork. With that, I will end this episode. If somebody has not told you today or ever, I am proud of you.